Progress, change, boredom. What habits help you maintain your vitality? These are all pressures and questions that this cycle of the human design weather for June 1st to 7th, 2025 will bring. Hello, hello. I'm Margot Fraser, your guide through the cosmic weather. As a certified human design professional and intuitive coach, I'm on a mission to help you know, love, and live the magic of your true nature. In this podcast, Human Design Weather or Not, we explore the conditioning influences of the planetary motions, the transit field. You can't avoid the conditioning pressures. You'll likely notice their effects playing out around you. But rather than you reacting and being pulled off track, this awareness will empower you to navigate the cycle, staying true to your authentic nature and taking advantage of opportunities when correct for you. All right, let's dig into the weather for this cycle. It begins on June 1st at 9:07 a.m., going until June 7th at 6:07 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. Universal time coordinates, it's coming in at 3:07 p.m. on June 1st, going until 12:07 p.m. on June 7th. So remember to convert that to your own time zone so you know when it starts and ends for you. We always start with the sun earth activations because that's 70% of the conditioning field. We're staying in collective frequencies this cycle, which are inherently social and always have an underlying theme of impersonal sharing, even though we humans tend to take the sharing personally. All right, this sun has moved into gate 35, the trait of change and progress in the throat center. It's part of the abstract experiential circuitry that's all about going through cycles of experience, reflecting on them to make sense of that experience, gain the wisdom, and share it so that we don't have to start from scratch each time, either individually or as a collective for all of humanity. Its keynote says, by design, progress cannot exist in a vacuum and is dependent on interaction. Progress here is gaining the experience. Experiences tend to be relational. There's some kind of interaction that occurs in your experience. And if you don't share your experience, there can't be true progress for humanity as that collective. As a throat gate that points to a motor, the solar plexus, the emotional center, it's a trait of action. Manifestation of experience can happen here. Every throat gate has its voice. And here the voice is I feel, right? The feeling energy of emotions coming up to the throat center. Most often it says, I feel like a change. This is also the voice of boredom. It represents the completion of an experience. So can have a been there, done that kind of quality. When there's no new experience on the horizon, this is when it becomes the voice of, I'm bored. It's very healthy for this trait to not repeat an experience. It's going to bring a pressure this cycle to satisfy any yearning that you have for an experience. It's not about expectations here, having some kind of goal. It's about the process of cycles, beginnings, middles, and ends, learning through the journey. There's an opportunity here, since it's a throat gate, to share your experience and the change that it brought. The caution, though, is if you did or do have expectations about the experience, you might really have this sense of dissatisfaction that a yearning has not been fulfilled in the way that you expected. This is a really interesting Sun Earth combination because, as much as Gate 35 is about not repeating an experience, The Earth has moved into gate 5, the trait of fixed rhythms, also called waiting, which is part of the logic circuitry that's all about experimenting and repeating over and over again. You have to do that practice to find the best pattern, the best formula to carry yourself and humanity forward from the logical side. If I do this, this, and this, I'm going to get that result, that outcome consistently and reliably. That's what the aim is here. This trait is located in the sacral center, which is a motor that generates life force energy, that vital energy, and is here to use that energy towards satisfying work. The keynote for this trait says the fundamental attunement to natural rhythms, waiting as an active state of awakening. So, for this trait, habits are very empowering. They provide a sense of stability for oneself and for others. The waiting that's referred to in the keynote is waiting for the right timing according to those fixed habits. And responding, this is in the sacral center, responds to life, responding from that sacral energy. It's sticking to the fixed habits no matter what. And if something's going to interfere with your fixed habit, you don't engage with it. You stick with your own rhythm. That's what this activation's about. If you get up at 7:30 a.m. and start your day with a cup of tea, and that really works for you to kick off your day, and it helps you to really move into the day with that vitality, you've got to stick with that habit. In the macro sense, this is a trait that contributes to holding all of life together in a universal rhythm. If you have this trait in your design, allowing others or a situation to pull you out of your fixed rhythm can really be destabilizing. You really have to pay attention to your life and see what is your natural rhythm and then fix it. It's going to allow your vital energy to be used in a really healthy way. If you don't have this trait in your design, the opportunity it's going to bring is you might find that there are certain habits that might come into your awareness. It's a good time for contemplating that. Hey, what habits are of value? They support your vital energy. When we look at these two traits together, you may find that there are fixed habits within an experience that help you move through it. Or in the polarity, you might find that if you don't stick with certain habits as you move through the experience, you might run up to difficulties and resistances in moving through that experience. All right, let's move into our channels now. A reminder that when the transit field creates a channel, everyone that doesn't already have it in their chart is receiving activation of the related traits and qualities. So there's a big impact that the channels can have, especially when they're with us for longer periods of time. Now, we have a channel that came in at the end of last cycle when Mercury moved into gate 35. We just talked about that in that throat center. That's going to be there until June 2nd at 1:25 p.m. It's connecting with its electromagnetic gate 36 in the emotional solar plexus center, activated by the north node of the moon. But now we have the sun moving into gate 35 too. So we're going to see this channel extended right to the end of this cycle. This is going to be a really strong channel activation with the sun being part of it. This creates the abstract experiential channel of transitoriness, a jack of all trades design. The rule of thumb here, we talked about with gate 35, is to never repeat an experience. It's about moving from one experience to another, which is where the name transitoriness comes from for this channel. We have the emotional center directly connecting to the throat center. That emotional energy can make its way right up there. And the emotional center is both a motor and an awareness center, our emotional awareness. This can be a pushy energy. Anytime you've got a motor going directly to the throat, that energy wants to get there. It wants to manifest, it wants to express itself. So, yes, this can be especially powerful for those of you that in your chart, you've got an undefined emotional center. It's white in your chart, it'll be the bottom right triangle. And even more potent if you also have an undefined throat center in your chart, which is the top square in the chart. Because open centers take in and amplify the frequencies. It's going to amplify this energy. So, for those of you that are getting the emotional center defined, yeah, surfboards are back out to ride these emotional waves. And those of you that are getting the throat center definition, you've just got to be diligent in following your strategy and authority. So you're just not blurting out or trying to manifest something that actually isn't correct for you. The energy it's going to bring is to change something in your life, to go through a new experience. The crisis of gate 36 is being a novice at something. If you don't have the experience yet, that can bring crisis. It can also bring a sense of inadequacy. So fear of inadequacy is something that could also come up in this cycle. The potential opportunity, if it's correct for you, according to your strategy and authority, is to enter into a new experience or move to the next phase of an experience that you're already in, or bring something to completion. Getting to that gate 35 where you can articulate the change, the progress, and how you feel. This is a channel where you can share your feelings about your experience. It's a very creative channel. This is the place where you can find all the different ways of experiencing something. Brick is used to build houses and walls, but how many other ways could you use a brick? It could be used for a doorstop. It could be used to break a window, right? There's lots of other things that it could be used for. This is a channel that can be very hot, sexually speaking. Let's try something new. And it's totally impersonal. Even though, again, that's going to feel very personal. It's all about the experience. The cautions, just a reminder again, there can't be any expectations about what the experience will bring. The other piece of experiential circuitry is that only be in one experience at a time. If you try and go through multiple experiences at the same time, you're just diluting each of those experiences. You're not going to get the full richness and depth and wisdom that's available if you put all of your attention into the one experience. This can be the expression of I'm bored until something new comes along. We've talked about that with that gate 35. Well, yeah, that motorized energy can make that even more present if that's the case for you. If you enter into an experience out of the pressure and not your strategy and authority, it could bring your not self theme, frustration, anger, bitterness, disappointment at those unmet expectations. Or there could be a sense of feeling stuck. Okay, we have another medium-term channel that's coming in on June 1st at 8:51 p.m. Also, going to the end of the cycle on June 7th. UTC, it's coming in on June 2nd at 2:51 a.m. We have Jupiter moving into gate 15, the trait of extremes and love of humanity in the G center. The G center is associated with love, identity, and direction in life. That's connecting with its electromagnetic gate 5, our Earth's position. So, wow, what a cycle. We've got both our sun and Earth in channels for almost the whole cycle for the sun and almost the whole cycle for the Earth. Now here, when you have gate 15 meeting gate 5, that creates the channel of rhythm, a design of being in the flow. This is a very magnetic channel. And it also empowers the love of humanity. Now, the polarity can be there as well, could empower the hate of humanity. This is about being in your flow, and therefore it could bring this, my way or the highway kind of feel to it. So you may feel like that, or you may get that from other people around you. For those of you that have this channel, when you're in your flow, you'll be using this energy in a healthy way, and that can be very magnetic. But if you're feeling stuck or that the world is feeling chaotic, it's most likely you that are chaotic. You're not in your flow. For those of us that don't have this channel, it's an opportunity to be in touch with the flow, not only in our own lives, but the flow of nature around us. Now, for those of you that have gate 5, that Earth's position in your own chart, when the 15 comes in, this is something just to watch. It could be a little tricky here because you might get pulled out of your fixed habits that are really correct for you. You could also find that in getting into the flow, you may find that there's certain habits that you've been following that, oh yeah, those don't work for me anymore. So strategy and authority here again is going to be very, very critical to follow so that you're not getting pulled into some flow and out of your own habits that is not correct and not of value for you. All right, we have one channel that's being created by the transit of the moon this cycle. Also coming in on June 1st. Lots going on June 1st. So coming in June 1st at 9:15 p.m., going until June 2nd at 7:59 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. UTC coming in June 2nd at 3:15 a.m., going until 1:59 p.m. Remember that the moon only stays in a gate or a trait activating for about 10 to 11 hours. So it's a smaller impact that's coming in here. It's just a little taster, but still good to know that they're coming in case you have a sense or you're feeling the pressure of it. So we have the channel of mating, a design focused on reproduction, with the moon moving into gate 59, the trait of sexuality in the sacral center, connecting with its electromagnetic gate 6, the trait of conflict and friction in the emotional solar plexus center. That's being activated by the south node of the moon. This is part of the tribal circuitry that always has an underlying theme of mutual support. You do this for me, I do that for you. This is also called the channel of intimacy. It does bring a pressure to reproduce literally and also metaphorically. It creates this channel of creative fertility, and there's a frequency that comes with this that is very penetrating and can open others to intimacy or could close others to intimacy. It could open you to intimacy or close you to intimacy. You might find that there's an opportunity that comes in with this for creative fertility and for greater intimacy. The caution here is that the connection to the emotional center implicitly within it means that it takes time to establish intimacy with another. Just because this pressure is here, emotions have to go through their waves. So whether it's establishing greater intimacy at the level a mate, a friend, a business partner, it takes time. In any relationship, there's going to be friction and conflict. That's what gate 6 is about. It can bring growth and evolution in working through it, or you might find out that things don't fit between you and there's a devolution that occurs there. All right, that brings us to our long-term transits. The long-term transits are created by the outer planets and the nodes of the moon. They're with us for a longer period of time, years in some cases. So your not self mind could start to think that they're a part of you, even when it's not something that you have in your own design. And then when that transit leaves, that can be a little bit confusing. Hey, thought that was part of me. What happened? All right. Well, we have the nodes of the moon related to our direction and environment sitting in gates 36, the trait of crisis, and 6, the trait of conflict and friction, both in that solar plexus center. We've talked about both of them because they're in channels in this cycle. They've moved into line two or sitting in line two. For gate 36, that's called support. Line two is called support. And it has a developmental theme of assistance to others in time of decline. Decline is not having the experience yet, right? We're at the stage of being a novice here. So there could be opportunities to give and get support while we're in this line activation. Line two can also be very selective. So there may not be the giving and getting of support unless absolutely necessary. For gate six, the trait of conflict and friction, line two is called the gorilla. Gorilla as in a battle, not gorilla the animal. It also has a developmental theme that says the ability to maximize an inferior position through timely contact and withdrawal. So there's kind of this moving towards someone and then pulling back, moving toward them and then pulling back. In its exaltation, it brings an ability to find the weakest point in a conflict and exploit it emotionally. In its detriment, it says a lack of sensitivity that blunders into conflicts. Remember that most people are operating from their not self, and so the detriments tend to be what we see playing out in the world. Now, Jupiter, with its quality of expansion, has moved into that gate 15, that trait of extremes in the G center, bringing that love of humanity. And the extremes is about experiencing extremes and finding the balance within them. However, we already talked about it's going to be in a channel for almost this whole cycle, and channel themes will dominate over the gate themes. Saturn and Neptune, both sitting in gate 25, the trait of spirit of the self, of innocence, and universal love, or the polarity can be there as well. Neptune still in the line four position, has no polarity. It's something we learn over time, which says the nature of true innocence can be maintained regardless of circumstances. The spiritual warrior. Now, Neptune could veil this, but it could also unveil it, helping us to go into the depths of the unknown. That's the high side of that spiritual warrior. And since there's no polarity, this is something that this Neptune activation could support us with. Now, we also have Saturn there, quite a different frequency. It brings limitation, consequences, constraints, and it's sitting in line three called sensibility. So maybe it's going to limit our sensibility, or perhaps it's going to bring consequences if we're not being sensible. What line three says as a developmental theme is the recognition that innocent action does not in itself guarantee success. Okay. If we're not being sensible about that, yeah, perhaps Saturn's going to be tough on us and bring in some shocks there. Uranus, with its unusualness, is sitting in gate 8, an individual trait in the throat center. It's in line 4 called respect, with developmental themes that says the gift of naturally recognizing the contribution of others, and particularly the acknowledgement of those who lead by example. Now, early in this cycle on June 3rd, it is going to move into line 5, which is called Dharma. It has a developmental theme as well that says holding together does not exclude eventual separation. Successful union after a proper term will encourage separation. The fledgling, once mature, is expected to leave the nest. This is right action which does not harm the integrity of the union. This is an individual trait. It's there to bring a spark. So you come in, you provide your individual contribution, and then you let it go. All right. Those who have taken it up, yeah, you might support them for a little bit of time and understanding what that contribution is, that creative input that you may have provided, but then you got to let them take it on their own. Right? The detriment here is trying to hold on, the parent who can't let go of the child. All right, let's move on to our last one. Pluto sitting in that gate 41 position in the root center. This is the trait of contraction and decrease, part of the abstract experiential circuitry. This is a gate where the pressure, the drive to start a new experience is here. However, at this level, it's not like that gate 36 that we talked about already, which is really doing it. Here, it's the daydreaming and fantasizing. What is that experience that you want to have? That's the true beginning of a new experiential cycle. First, you have to dream about it. So, okay, just a reminder that in the end, it does have to be practical, right? We can dream and fantasize all sorts of things, but this is line two, and line two here is, yep, it has to be practical or of value in some way. Remember that for any of these traits, that if you don't have them in your own design, it's just pressure from the transit field. You can observe it playing out around you, you can learn from it, but whether there's actually something for you to do with it is according to your own strategy and authority. So watch that it's not puppeting you or running you, this conditioning field. All right, that brings us to the end of the cosmic weather for this cycle. If you want to run your own chart, you can go to jovianarchive.com. If you're new to human design and you want to understand the basics of the chart, what's the black and the red about, the different geometric shapes, just at a high level, a little bit of background on the human design system, you can grab my free Human Design Basics mini course. It's at margotgfraser.com/human design. If you enjoyed this podcast, I would be very grateful if you could give this episode a like and consider subscribing to this podcast. Whew, okay, so a very powerful cycle with both the sun and earth in channels for almost the full cycle. We're going to have that emotional center being activated for everyone with the sun's channel, that channel of transitoriness, jack of all trades, could have you entering into an experience maybe that's really right for you if your strategy and authority says yes, or you could be pulled into something that's not correct for you at all. Then we've got the earth being in that channel of rhythm for almost the full cycle. That's going to activate the sacral center for everyone. So the 30% of you out there, projectors, manifestors, reflectors, you are getting the sacral center activated this cycle. So be careful, right? You might not know when enough is enough. All right. It could also have you get caught up in a flow potentially that's not correct for you. On the other hand, we may get to experience a flow that really feels good and that we can learn from. So polarity is always there. Comes back once again to your strategy and authority. All right. Well, have a great cycle, everyone. Please be kind to one another, and may you know, love, and live the magic of your true nature. Until next time, bye for now.